Dr. Kegley suggested we've been working on this issue for months now. The state of California, the Department of Pesticide Regulation, and the governor are currently considering registering the pesticide in the next few months. The public comment period for responding to concerns about the chemical has been opened until the end of this month, and over 40,000 individuals from across the state have voiced their concern to this chemical through online public comments, through written letters, through emails, all with a simple message that methyl iodide doesn't belong in California. And in that fight has been a really strong champion, one of the assembly members from the Central Coast who's lived and worked with farm workers and rural communities and seen firsthand just how toxic pesticides are and can be to some of those communities. So I'd like to invite up next Assembly Member Bill Monning to share his perspective on this issue.
Well, thank you, Paul. Good afternoon. I'm Bill Monning. I represent the 27th Assembly District, parts of Monterey, Santa Cruz, Santa Clara counties. I want to thank all who turned out this afternoon in support of this effort to get the state of California to prohibit the use of methyl iodide. We've followed with great interest and participation the process of DPR. As was mentioned by the doctor, DPR scientists reached the conclusion that this chemical is unsafe. An external scientific peer review committee reached the conclusion that this presents an immediate and prospective health risk to workers and rural residents. So once again, we see California with this face-off between the interests of certain sectors in the ag community and the public health community, farm worker advocates, rural residents, and really for all Californians. What we have to ask ourselves, are we going to continue to allow farm workers and rural residents to be the guinea pigs for field trials if this chemical is registered? It is more volatile, it is more dangerous, it is more toxic than the chemical it seeks to replace, which is methyl bromide. Methyl bromide is being phased out under international treaty because it's an ozone depleter. And so that's a good move. And we need to be in compliance with our international treaty obligations. But we do not advance the cause of agriculture or of public health to replace one bad actor with a worse bad actor. And so ultimately, when we look at this as a neurotoxin, as a cancer-causing agent, as an agent that can and will cause birth defects among women who might be exposed to it, either as workers or maybe working in a field next door to a field applied with methyl iodide. There's just no provisions, even in the proposed safety measures, that will provide the level of protection that Californians deserve, and that all of us in the name of the state of California should stand up to argue for safer alternatives, which in fact exist. We're aware of some big berry growers that have already indicated they will not use methyl iodide even if registered. If they can live without it, so too can other growers live without it. In fact, life will be threatened with it. We need to pursue the path that protects public health. And in doing that, we can also enhance and make a more robust agricultural community, as it will develop safe alternatives that will bring health not only to the product, but to the rural communities. In my experience, representing victims of pesticide poisonings, there is a huge gap between what might be a warning label prescribing safe use and what happens in fields where temperatures go up, where wind conditions can blow, where tarps are torn, where humans make mistakes. This is the reality of agriculture in the state of California and around the world. We have some of the safest provisions of any state, and we shouldn't now start degrading that commitment to worker safety and protection. So I stand here with those who call for the prohibition of this chemical being used in the state of California. We call on the DPR not to register it for use. We call on the federal EPA to withdraw its provisional registration at the federal level under the last administration. and in so doing, make a commitment that public health is the most sacred commitment that we have to protect, whether as elected representatives, as community leaders, or as corporate leaders for that matter. We need only look to the disaster in the Gulf to understand that the best assurances of safety and no problem and no risk fall short of that statement when you add the human factor and the many moving parts, whether it's oil drilling in the Gulf or pesticide application in the state of California. We need to err on the side of safety, we need to err on the side of human health, and we need to be the voice for those who traditionally in this state have not had a voice. The farm workers who harvest our food and rural residents who often work in support capacities, not to mention the generations of children who in rural areas are suffering some of the highest cases of asthma from airborne contaminants, from pesticides already being used. Let's not add another airborne contaminant that can be a neurotoxin, a birth defect causer, and a cancer precipitator. Let's stand on the side of wisdom, public health, and public safety. I ask you to join us in the call to DPR, to the governor, and to the federal government. Better safe than sorry. This chemical is unsafe at any speed. Thank you. Please.
Dr. Schore, at the last committee hearing you had, the Labor and Employment Committee, Dr. Schore says this chemical is 5 times heavier than oxygen. So by nature, it seeks to meet the groundwater. And when it does, it becomes methyl alcohol.
Thank you. Just to repeat your question, the concern, Dr. Kegley might have some comments on this as well. I focus mostly on the human health risk. That human health risk is also exacerbated because this is a water contaminant. And it will contaminate water both on contact, through leaching through the fields, and if there's persistent use, it can provide a steady source of contamination to the water. That water, once again, will be the source of drinking water, it'll be the source of other irrigation water, and it will be the source of innocent contact between workers, children, and those waterways. Thank you for that question. Unsafe at any speed. Thank you.
Thanks.